Well, hello, friends. Thank y'all again for coming back this week for my old-fashioned homemaking and homesteading skills series. I've been having a lot of fun, and I hope that you have been too. And I'm going to pretend today that you're in the kitchen with me, and you're just my good friend, and we're having a good time, and I'm teaching you how I make blueberry jam. Now, I will say that if you start canning and making your own jams and jellies, I think you're going to get addicted because this is so much fun, and there's so many different experiments that you can come up with and different flavor combinations that you're going to really enjoy making once you get the hang of this. I don't want you to be intimidated by it. It's a process, but it is such a rewarding process to know that you've made something with your own hands, and something that it's a skill that not many people know how to do. And I want you to know how to do it because, again, it's so much fun and it tastes even better. And you always have, if you make, I'm looking over here and you can't see what I'm looking at. I've got all my jars over here, my clean jars. Once you learn how to make these, you can always have a gift on hand if somebody comes to your house. So anyway, I am going to teach y'all how to make blueberry jam today. And with this recipe, I don't want you to think that it's going to be really difficult and you're going to have to buy all kinds of things. All you're going to need to buy for the recipe in the first place is just a box of Sure Gel. And you can get this, I got this at my local Food Lion. They have it at Walmart as well. And this is the low sugar variety of Sure Gel. And then the recipes, the full instructions are in the box. So that's all you're going to need as far as the directions to make this. And then I'm going to turn the camera down so that you can see what I'm doing and all of the ingredients that I have here. Too bad I don't have a wider angle lens on this phone so that you can see me and I can show you what I'm doing at the same time, but that's just what it is. So let's flip the camera over here. So what do you need when you're going to make a batch of homemade jam? Well, you're going to need a good sized pot to cook your jam in, first of all. Then you're going to need a canner. Now this is a pressure canner, but it is also, it can double as a water bath canner because I'm not going to put the pressure canning lid on this because you need something to cover your jars with water so that you can get a good seal of your lids here. So then you're going to also need canning jars, and these are ball canning jars. Typically when you buy these, they come with the lids and they come with the screw bands. So you're going to need all of those pieces. Then you're also going to need your fruit, and in this case we have blueberries. You're going to need sugar, and then of course your Sure Gel. Now also, this is very important, you have to start with a very clean and sanitized kitchen. If you've been following along with me, you know that's my #1 rule, is to start with a very clean kitchen and clean as you go, and then that way you will enjoy the process more and you won't be looking at a giant mess after everything is over and you know, have to worry about cleaning that up, because nobody wants to have to clean up a giant mess after they're through cooking. You want to sit down and enjoy the fruits of your labor. And if you have somebody to help you, that's great, but typically, you know, if you're the woman of the house, you don't always have someone to help you. So start with a clean kitchen and then clean with you go, and the whole process is going to be so much more enjoyable because you're not going to have to be worrying about a dirty kitchen to clean up afterwards. All right, let me get off my soapbox about that clean kitchen. Now, these things are very handy to have. I would recommend buying a little kit. You can also buy these at a lot of hardware stores, not like the big box hardware stores, but local hardware stores sell canning items. I know our Ace Hardware here in Locust sells these. This is a gripper, and so you're going to want to have something to pull your hot jars out of the hot water with, and it's without burning your fingers. So those grippers are good. This is a funnel. This is very important, I think, because you're not going to make quite as big of a mess if you have a funnel. And then this is a little magnet lid getter. We have to put our lids in this hot water before we seal our jars, and then this makes light work of that, because you're not going to burn your fingers when you pull your lids out of the hot water. Now, this is not a extensive how to can and all the basics of canning. This is just how to make blueberry jam, how I make blueberry jam. There are lots of videos out there. I know that the the University of Georgia Extension Agency has lots of canning videos, and I'll link some of those in the description box below for you, because that'll give you a little bit more of the science behind canning. We've got our big pot here, and we are going to add to our pot our blueberries. Now we're going to pour the blueberries in. Now this recipe calls for 6.5 cups of blueberries. And you can use fresh blueberries, you can use frozen blueberries, just whatever you have on hand. And this is my Sure Gel. This is pectin, and it is going to cause my cooked mixture to gel, and it's going to give it that sort of jelly texture. But to our package of pectin, I've already opened up the package and I've poured it into this container. And this is per the directions on the recipe. To the pectin, you're going to add 1/4 cup of sugar. And then you're going to mix that together and then pour it into your blueberries. And turn the heat on and start letting this mixture cook. And while this mixture is cooking, you can certainly walk away and do other things in the kitchen, but don't go too far, because you don't want this to burn. So we need to let this mixture cook thoroughly. I hope y'all can see that. I'm gonna move my light closer here. Sorry, the lighting is not too good in here today. We're gonna let this blueberry mixture start to cook, and then those berries are gonna cook down. So I'm gonna turn the camera off, and then I'll come back and show you what they look like. Now I got my potato masher out, and I mashed my berries down, and they have been cooking for about 10 minutes so far, and they're nearly to the boiling point. What you want to happen is to have this mixture come to a full rolling boil that doesn't stop boiling when you stir it. So it's going to be pretty intense, and just be careful, because this will sometimes splatter out and you may have to cut the heat down, but you do want it to come to a full rolling boil. So we're waiting for that to happen. And as soon as that starts happening, we are going to pour in our sugar. I like to have my sugar already measured out so that I don't have to worry that I don't have the right amount. So to our 6.5 cups of berries, we are going to add 4.25 cups of sugar. You can see that it's starting to boil here, but it's not quite up there yet. The pectin that we've poured in here has to reach a boiling point before it will make a proper set. And then meanwhile, over here, I've got my water bath canner ready to go, and I've got my eye on. Can you believe my stove only has 2 working eyes right now? They don't make things like they used to. This thing's only 13 years old, but 2 of my eyes have gone out, so I've got to get another one sometime. Now that we've got our fruit and pectin in its full rolling boil state, now we're going to add our sugar, and you're just going to add it all at once and then start stirring. Don't turn your heat down though, because after this, you're going to stand here and stir this the whole time, but you're going to have to let this come back to a boil after you have mixed all the sugar in. And then you're going to set a timer and let it boil for 1 minute, and then we are going to can it in the jars. And while we're waiting for this to come to its second boil, we're gonna go ahead and put our lids into our hot water and let those lids start getting, the rubber on the lid start getting malleable. That's gonna help make a seal on our jars. All right, so it's taken about 4.5 minutes from the time we poured the remaining sugar into this until it came again to a full boil. So we're gonna set the timer and let this cook for 1 minute at this boiling stage, and then we're gonna test it and then start putting it into our canning jars. Okay, so it has been boiling for 1 minute. I'm gonna cut the heat off, and now I'm gonna test it. And what I'm gonna do is I have a paper plate here. You can use a regular plate if you want. And I'm gonna put out a little bit of the cooked jam onto this plate and then set it aside, and then I'll show you what it's gonna look like. You can see at this moment it's runny, but hold on. Okay, so you can see now, see how the jam doesn't run off the plate? It's staying there. So that means it has a good set and you are ready to can it in the canning jars. Lord have mercy, that's good. Okay, so now we're going to put it in the jars. And these jars have been sanitized in my dishwasher. If you don't have a dishwasher, you can just wash them by hand in some good hot soapy water. And then what we're gonna do is get our funnel ready. Now this part is a little bit messy, so just be prepared for that. And then I like to use a cup as a ladle. It's a little bit easier. You just dip it in your jam mixture and then pour it into your jar. Now here is an important tip. Let me show you in just a second here. Get a little bit more. Whoa. You don't want to fill your jar completely to the top. See how there's a little bit of head space there? You want to leave about a 1/2 inch head space. And how do you, all right, my phone rang, so I'm not sure how much got missed. We were talking about head space that you're supposed to leave. You don't need to fill your jar of jam all the way full. You need to have a little bit of head space in there. And you can see there are little rings on these jars, and if you fill it to about this little first ring here, that's a good indicator of your head space. So you definitely want to leave some space. So you just set that aside, and then you continue with the rest of your jars until all of your jam has filled all of them. And now let's move some of these things out of the way. I like to have a paper towel handy and then just barely dip it in my boiling water here and then clean the lids off. Because again, you don't want any jam on top of your lids here of the jars because it will prevent it from making a good seal. I'm calling it lids. It's a lip, L-I-P, of the jar, not lid. Looks like everything is nice and clean. So the next step is putting the lids on. So you can see the steam coming off that water. That's why this little device is so handy to have. So you've got your lids, and you're going to set those right there on top of your jars. Oh man. 4, 5. I don't have enough jar lids. Uh-oh. Okay. Then you're going to take your screw bands, put your finger, put your screw band on and put your finger right there in the center, and then just screw it on just like that. So you're going to continue doing that for the rest of them. Not super tight, just tight enough to hold the lid down well, but don't really get in there and make it super tight. I have made a boo-boo. I don't have quite enough small lids for my jar, so what I'm gonna do is pour this off into a larger jar. Now that we have all of our jars of jam filled up with jam and then with the lids and the screw bands on, we are going to set them down into our big, and you may have to add more water after you set the jars down in here. You're gonna see that it's gonna make the water rise, but we'll see if we need some more. We probably will to cover up the larger jar that I had to use. But you want the water to cover your lids, and sure enough, yes, I'll need a little bit more water here in this. I'm pouring hot water on top of these so nothing will crack. And what you're going to do is set this on your hot eye and let this process for 10 minutes. And what that means is let this mixture come to a boil for 10 minutes. And then you're going to have a nice seal on all of your jars. So we'll come back after the 10 minutes has passed. Okay guys, it's been 10 minutes. So now we're gonna use our little grabbers here. And I've got a cloth laying here to put these out on. So you just wanna set these out on a towel, undisturbed, for several hours, and kind of give them some space between so that they can cool down. And then you're probably going to hear some popping noises, some gentle little pops as the day goes on, because that's going to just be the seal happening. You'll hear it happen. It's kind of a nice little sound. But there you have it. And then you can, for supper tonight, if you were to make it in the morning, you could have this for supper that night, or you could have it for breakfast in the morning on some toast or a biscuit. Well, as easy as that, friends, we have homemade jam. Now, some of you may know that we homeschooled our children until college, and this is an aside, but I think it's important. We used to make jam, jelly, breads, soap, beauty cream, all kinds of goodies. My boys had little blueberry stands that they would go pick blueberries for people and then sell it at the farmer's market. My daughter had cactus that she used to sell at the farmer's market. It was a great way for our kids to learn about business, about how to count money back, how to interact with people, and just to we used it as part of our curriculum as a whole in the summertime, because it's very important, I think, to teach kids things like this. And so when your kids know how to make products, or they have a service that they want to sell, it just adds to their educational experience. And so I would encourage you to do that too, if that's ever something that you're interested in with your children. Do you hear that pop? That's the pop sound you're going to hear throughout the day when you make these. Thank you all so much for watching. And remember, again, I'm going to have that drawing next Saturday. And so if you have subscribed, liked, and commented on all of these videos for the homemaking series all this week, you will be eligible for the prize, which is a bar of handmade soap, a handcrafted candle, and an eye pillow. So thanks again for watching, friends, and I'll talk to you soon.